Hey guys, welcome to video lesson for Module 1, Topic B. This is for lesson number 9, problem set. So I'm going to help you through your problem set. I'm hoping I can find all the various questions you might have through this problem set and help you be able to move right along without having too much trouble. With that said, if you have any problems, feel free to either email me or I'll be able to help you tomorrow. So number 1, we have a person who weighs 100 pounds on Earth, weighs 16.6 pounds on the moon. Part A, which variable is independent? Or which variable is the independent variable and why? So the answer to part A, oh, there we go. The answer to part A is the Earth weight is independent because your moon weight depends on how much you weigh on Earth. So the independent variable is your Earth weight. Okay. Part B, what is an equation that relates weight on Earth to weight on the moon? So for 1B, we have y is equal to 16.6 divided by 100 times x, or if you take this fraction here and divide it, you get y is equal to 166 thousandths x. X is the Earth weight and y is your moon weight. So 16 hundredths, 16.6 over 100, when you divide that, that lets you know what your when you multiply 16.6 divided by 100 times that by x, that will tell you what your weight on the moon is. So that's your weight in relation to the moon. Okay, part C. How much would a 185-pound astronaut weigh on the moon? Use an equation to explain how you know. Well, here's the start of that. So I'm going to use my equation. Y is equal to 116 thousandths x. So x represents the 185-pound Earth weight. So I'm going to take y is equal to 116 thousandths and multiply it by 185. And I get y is equal to 30 and 71 hundredths, or your weight on, what is happening? Your weight on the moon is 30 and 71 hundredths pounds for someone who weighs 185 pounds on Earth. And the last part, D, how much would a man who weighs 50 pounds on the moon weigh on Earth? So this is moon weight. So what we're going to do, 50 pounds on the moon, we're going to use y is equal to 166 thousandths x. We know that y is equal to 50 pounds, or the moon weight. So 50 is equal to 116 thousandths x. So we're going to take 50 and divide it by, just read this. We're going to take 50 and divide it by 166 thousandths. We'll round our answer to the nearest whole number to 301 pounds. Okay, so this was all of number 1. All right, here's number 2. So anytime I see a table like this, I always want to find the unit rate in miles per gallon. So miles would be my X, and gallons would be, I'm sorry, I did that backwards. There we go. Miles is Y, gallons is X. So which variable is the dependent variable and why? So if I have 2 gallons, I could only go 62 miles. If the tank has 4 gallons, I can go 124 miles. And if I have 10 gallons, I can go 310. So who depends on who or whom? So let me see here. So the miles driven is the dependent variable because the number of miles you drive depends on how much gas you have in your tank. So if I only have 2 gallons of gas, I could only go 64 miles. So the miles I drive is dependent on how much gas is in the tank. So what I did up here, which you might want to copy down in your notes, is I found K. I found the unit rate in miles per gas or gallons of gas or miles per gallon. I should have really written gallon down here. Okay, so this is gallons. So for this in here, what I did was I took 62 divided by 2, I got 31. And then in here, I took 124 divided by 4, and I got 31. And then down here, I took 310 divided by 10, and I got 31 again. So this is my K. This is my constant of proportionality. And this means I can go 31 miles on 1 gallon of gas. Okay, I can go 31 miles on 1 gallon of gas. So part B says, is the number of miles driven proportional or proportionally related to the number of gallons consumed? If so, what is the equation? So we know that K is equal to 31. So Y is equal to KX, which is Y is equal to 31X. So this is my formula here, or my equation. X is the number of gallons of gas, and Y represents the total number of miles that you travel. All right, letter C, in any ratio relating to the number of gallons of gas and the number of miles driven, will one of the values always be larger? So I get the answer of yes, the number of miles will always be larger. Okay, and that's true if you look at this chart here. Okay, the number of miles will always be larger. And I also want you to write something about this first set of data, which indicates that if you go 0 miles, you will burn 0 gallons of gas. Or on the other way around, 0 gallons of gas will allow you to travel 0 miles. Okay, so for letter D, you can read the problem there. Here's a little bit of help for you. So for letter D, yes, because, and you need to finish the reason, use y is equal to 31x to help. Okay, use our formula to help you. Okay, for letter E, okay, same thing. I get the answer of yes, it's the number of miles known. Can you find how much gas we consumed? Can you find how much gas we used up? So yes, use y is equal to 31x to help. All right, for part D and part E, I'm not looking for number answers. What I'm looking for is how would you solve for how would you find the number of miles? Explain how you would find that number. So I don't want to know what the answer is. I'd want to know, would you do something times something, or would you do something divide something? So I want you to explain that and be careful with your order, especially in division, because For example, 5 divided by 2 is very different from 2 divided by 5. So make sure you're saying it in the right order. All right, so for letter F, how many miles can be driven with 18 gallons of gas? So you're given the amount of gas. So once again, use y equals 31x to help you answer F. And the same for G, H, and I. Use y is equal to 31x to help you answer those questions. Remember, x is the number of gallons of gas. Y represents the total miles. So make sure you're plugging in the right values for x and y. So for 3, suppose that the cost of renting a snowmobile is $37.50 for 5 hours. If C represents the cost and H represents the hours, which variable is dependent? So who depends on who? Does the amount of time represent how much I spent, or does what I spend depend on how long I rent the snowmobile? Okay, so the solution is the cost depends on the number of hours you rent the snowmobile. So if I rent the snowmobile for 1 hour, that'll cost whatever the unit rate is. If I rent it for 2 hours, it's going to cost 2 times whatever the unit rate is. So the cost is dependent on the number of hours. So the hours determines how much you will spend. For part B, what would the cost be of renting 2 snowmobiles for 5 hours? Well, how much does it cost to rent 1 snowmobile for 5 hours? All right, that's given to you. So what would you do to find the cost of 2 snowmobiles? I'm renting them for 5 hours apiece. Okay, so what you need is already set up on this page for you. Have fun. Let's move on to number 4. So we're going to call the number of gallons X and the miles driven Y. In part A, it says write an equation that will relate the number of miles driven to the number of gallons of gas. So find your K or unit rate. So to do that, you're going to take miles and divide it by gallon. Right, so write an equation. Remember, you're going to need something in the form of y equals kx. K represents the unit rate. Remember what we did in the last example. Okay. What is the constant of proportionality? For B, we're asking you what is K. If you're able to do A, you should be able to do B. See how many miles if you fill your 22-gallon tank. So Y is equal to KX. You know Y is equal to miles, and X is your gallons, and X is equal to 22. So you're going to solve for Y. Okay? You know this represents miles. You know this represents gallons. So if you have 22 gallons, you're going to take K, and what are you going to do with K and X values? Okay, hopefully you're not saying divide, because that's wrong. All right, let's move on to D. If Katya takes a trip of 600 miles, how many gallons of gas will she need? So Y is equal to KX. You know that Y is your miles, 600 miles. And you know that X represents the gallons. So when you have Y and you're looking for X, hopefully you know that you shouldn't be you shouldn't be multiplying. All right, let's go to letter E. If Katya drives 224 miles, remember Y is your miles, X is your gallons. We know Y is equal to 224 miles. So solve for X. Oh, that was nice. By dividing. So I hope this helped you a little bit. I hope this helped you get through some humps Remember, you're going to complete all your work in your notebook and then you'll submit online. Thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow.